Okay, so here is your memory and storage refresh as requested. So memory and storage, it's broken up into 3 sections. So you've got primary memory, which is made of RAM and ROM, so your read-only memory and your random access memory. We've also got secondary storage, so that focuses on HDD and SSD. And then you've got your offline storage that focuses on things like your optical storage devices, your USBs, and any removable internal or external hard drives. So let's have a look at primary memory. So primary memory, as we mentioned, is broken down into RAM and ROM. RAM is also has 2 subcategories, so dynamic RAM and static RAM. So in terms of RAM in general, okay, it's volatile, which means the memory is temporary. It can store data, files, or parts of the operating system that are currently in use. RAM can also be written to or read from, and the contents of the memory can change. The larger the RAM, the faster your computer will run, and it's much faster to read or write than any other type of memory. It usually has a storage capacity of a few gigabytes. In terms of ROM, it's non-volatile, which means that the data is permanent. When powered off, it will still remain. It usually stores the startup instructions of your device. As mentioned, it's read-only, so that means it cannot change, and the storage is usually only a few thousand bytes. Now we're going to look into a little bit more detail about DRAM and SRAM. So all you really need to know about the difference is what they stand for, so dynamic RAM. And dynamic RAM is made of transistors and capacitors. Because of this, okay, the way it stores the zeros and ones, it constantly needs to be refreshed. It is less expensive to manufacture. It does consume less power. However, it also has a higher storage capacity. Now, most devices operate with DRAM, okay? But in terms of static RAM, it uses something called flip-flops. That's all you need to know. It doesn't need to be refreshed, so therefore it means it's faster to access data. Now, DRAM is the most common type of RAM used in computers, as mentioned, but where speed is essential, SRAM is used. So, fun fact. Memory cache is the high-speed portion of the memory, okay? And in terms of SRAM, the memory cache, okay, means that the SRAM will be able to access that particular the particular data there, and a lot of programs, okay, use the same data, so therefore it makes it faster to use. Secondary storage. So secondary storage, we're looking at HDD and we're looking at SSD. Again, the things that are here on the screen are what you need to know. Pay particular attention to the details that are in bold. So, in terms of HDD, they have a number of platters, so the magnetic surface. We discussed this in class today. That's where the data is stored in a digital format using things called sectors and tracks. They also have a number of read and write heads. That's how they use to record data and obviously to read data. It's slower to access because they have these moving parts of those heads. And that causes something called latency. If you've forgotten what latency is, you can see there that it says that latency is a time taken for a specific block of data on a data track to rotate around the read and write head. And then also it has a large storage space. So SSD, slightly basically the opposite of HDD. There are no moving parts, okay, and because of this, there is no or little latency. It uses something called electrical transistors. It has a lower power consumption, and a disadvantage of SSD is that it's limited to a number of write operations each day. This is something that's often referred to as SSD endurance, so the longevity of SSD.